Hello, and welcome to this recorded webinar introducing the Online Discovery Mentoring Program walkthrough, which is part of the Provider Capacity Development Project. Um, this webinar, let's see how I do this, there we go. This webinar is meant for those of you who are going to be participating in the Discovery online mentoring. You're participating because you are sites that have been identified through the Provider Capacity Development Project that is a grant to Progressive Employment Concepts to help expand capacity to provide customized employment services throughout Northern California. This is for staff who are ACRE certified in customized employment and have received that training from Griffin Hammis Associates. It's for those who are new to developing and delivering customized employment or fairly new at it and want to increase their skills. And for those of you who are able to identify a job seeker to target through the online mentoring. So through the online mentoring, we'll have you be focusing on one person and walking through discovery with them. The reason we're doing this is many reasons. Often when people have participated in ACRE training, what happens is that they get really good base knowledge about customized employment, but to really fully implement this, we find that people need a little more guidance and kind of step-by-step instruction. So it provides for better tracking of discovery being completed. It provides more immediate support to you because you're getting feedback immediately as you complete each stage in discovery. It also leads to quicker turnaround. I mean, we'd like to speed up the process. Generally, we hope that discovery will take about 6 to 9 weeks. We're giving 12 weeks for the purpose of this project because A, people are new at discovery for the most part, and B, that just because of the mentoring process, it's going back and forth a little bit, it takes a little bit longer. But we hope for the most part that once you learn the process that it will take less and less time as you go. And obviously some people are going to take a little longer than others for a number of reasons. It also provides written guidance and feedback with each step along the way. So you have written documentation you can go back to and review. And for those of you who are supervisors, because that feedback's written, it can help you too in terms of seeing what I as the mentor am providing in terms of feedback. It also provides more timely feedback and review of your work. We found lots of times states will have us come in and do on-site technical assistance, and that's great, but through discovery, we hope that the process moves along fairly quickly, and often, we can't get back on site quickly enough to keep up with where people are at. So this way it provides more feedback as you need it. It hopefully will result in greater and more timely service delivery for job seekers, so that we're not dragging discovery out forever and ever. And again, discovery is about getting to know who the person is. And obviously we continue to learn about people as we go, but at some point we need to finish discovery and move on to job development. So we hope that will result in more timely service delivery. And also it can provide some data in the sense that the mentoring platform allows you to track your time spent doing discovery, documenting discovery, and also travel time. And that data can be important, especially when states are looking at rates and how they're going to fund customized employment services. So we hope you'll use that feature of this. Now, to get started in the mentoring program, what we'll have you do is there is a platform, what I'll call the Discovery Mentoring Platform. And there's a link here that I'll email this to you as well. But this link helps you register for the platform. And when you go in, the password will just be change me, and I'll email that to you as well. And once you go in, you can change the password to whatever you want. And then there's the registration form. But one of the things it asks you to do up front is to be sure that you and your supervisor have read the program description, which outlines the expectations. So we'll review that a little later in this recording, but make sure that you're walking through this with your supervisor, because what we don't want is for people to get involved in this and then have their supervisor say, "Oh, I didn't really realize it was going to take this much time, and I need you to be doing other things." So we just want people to be clear up front. Kira Watillo has also sent out what we call, I think, the expectations. A document called the Expectations for the Provider Capacity Development Project, and that can kind of outline some of that too. We're going to be starting the mentoring right after the holidays, the week of January 6th, and it runs basically 12 weeks. Again, we want people to be on top of this and kind of make things happen in 12 weeks, realizing that sometimes there might be things that come up that are going to slow you down. We're purposely waiting till after the holidays so that that's not going to be one of them. But sometimes people do go on vacation or are sick, or a number of things might pop up. But we'll try as much as possible to stick to the 12 weeks. You might have actual various start dates with starting the discovery staging records just due to authorizations from vocational rehabilitation or whoever is funding your services. So the reason that we are starting with this webinar early is so that you can start working with VR or the regional centers or whoever you need to get authorizations from, and bring on the job seeker that you're going to be working with and kind of do any preliminary work that you need to do with them. So the mentees, those of you who will be mentored, might have multiple discovery staging record submissions for each target job seeker. How it kind of works is that as you complete each stage of discovery, you upload it into the portal, and then I give you feedback. And on the feedback, I'll either say needs revision or accepted as complete. So if it needs revision, there'll be some comments about what you need to do. So like, for instance, stage 1 might go back and forth a couple of times before it's accepted. And once that it's accepted, then it'll bring you to stage 2. The expectations for employment specialists are first that you complete the assigned readings and materials, and within each stage there'll be a little refresher. This is all stuff that you learned in ACRE training, so it should just be a little review. It's probably going to take about 40 hours of field work to complete the work over the 12 weeks. So you're probably looking at a half day a week that needs to be delegated for this. We will have you complete time logs of your work, which will help kind of see how time's being spent. And then you're going to be submitting the discovery work on the DSR, the discovery staging record, one stage at a time for review and approval. And so I'll show you the actual portal in a minute. But know that it can be completed in less than 12 weeks. It doesn't have to take that long, but we're expecting that it might, especially this first time. So as you may remember from ACRE training, discovery is broken down into basically 6 stages. We're having you do these preliminary steps between now and when we start on January 6th. So what we'll be having you look at between now and then is for getting authorization for the job seeker that you're going to be working with. And again, that's probably working with your DOR office, or to get approval for that person to be involved in discovery, and reading and review the assigned materials in the introduction section. Also, just reviewing the discovery staging record. If you have any questions, let me know. And then when we actually start the week of January 6th, the first stage is the home and neighborhood observations. And we assume that that will take most of the first week or two. And that's probably if you start lining up that home visit during these preliminary steps. So again, to keep moving on this and make the flow smooth, you want to be thinking about the next steps and what you're going to need to schedule to make that happen. So assuming stage 1 will be, the first couple of weeks, stage 2 might start happening around weeks 2 and 3. That's the interviewing others, where you're talking to folks probably on the phone. During weeks like 3 to 6, you're probably going to be more engaged in discovery visits and activities. Again, that's getting out and doing things with people, verifying their skills, getting them out both in familiar and unfamiliar settings where you're connecting people with folks with like interest and learning from them. In weeks 6 through 9, you're probably working on stage 4, which is verifying vocational themes through informational interviews. So that's when you're going to be going out and talking with business owners about the types of opportunities that might be there and the types of needs they might have, and getting their advice and information. During the last couple of weeks, you'll be working on stages 5 and 6, which are summarizing that vocational profile, taking what you've learned and putting it into a very concrete narrative about the type of work that you're looking for this person. And in that last week too, regrouping with the team to review what you learned in discovery and to develop the job development plan or career plan, which sometimes might lead to wage employment, sometimes might lead to self-employment, but probably most of the time wage employment. And that's where we do that list of 20, where you're taking the 3 themes and generating a list of potential places where people with similar themes would work in that person's community. So for each stage, again, you're reviewing content on the portal. You're completing that particular stage and documenting it on the Discovery Staging Record, and then uploading that stage onto the online portal. And then I'll be providing feedback in editing until that stage is approved. So again, it could go back and forth a little bit, but usually it goes pretty smooth. And note too that in addition to the online support through the mentoring platform, then it's always fine to call. Give me a call. It's also, we will be doing some on-site technical assistance, but kind of what we decided is that it might be best to hold that until people are completing discovery and getting ready to move on into job development, because that's where people need a lot of support. And we're looking at doing that probably like late March, early April, when we're wrapping up discovery. But please feel free to call or email me all the time. I do travel a lot for work, so email is sometimes best. And we just want to support you in any ways that we can. So now what I'd like to do is actually switch to the portal and show you what it looks like. So bear with me for a minute. I think I can get out of this without, let's see. Okay, let me get out of this one. And okay, here we go. This is, the link I'm going to send you is going to take you to a registration page. And you'll see here it says PEC Discovery Mentorship Program. Make sure you're on the PEC page when you get there, and then this should take you right to that. You'll see here it says that by checking this box, I certify that my supervisor and I have downloaded and read the mentorship program description, understand the timelines and expectations, and commit to completing the requirements of the 12-week program. Just know that through the PEC grant, that they're providing the funding for most of you to go through this mentoring, and it does cost some money. So we want to make sure that people understand the expectations and are willing to keep up with the program timelines. So you can click right here and actually download, I'll pull it up in a second. You can download the mentoring program description and see that here. It's going to take a second, but it's opening up here. So if your supervisor, particularly if your supervisor hasn't been sent through this webinar, that's kind of an easy way to have this happen too, is to have your supervisors go through the webinar as well. But you will see that it says things like, the participants must have earned your basic ACRE certificate. Prior to registration, you need to identify a job seeker to work with. You need to agree to complete the discovery process with that chosen job seeker, as well as read the assigned materials and documents and feedback provided by myself, the mentor. You're going to be uploading that information. It just says that you're going to complete the DSR, the plan for employment, and also we'd like to help you during this process develop a visual resume. So it's going to be important that through the process you're taking pictures, especially when it comes to, like the discovery activities, because we're using that information to highlight people's skills so that when we get to the job development phase, we'll have some materials to show employers people's capacities. Again, just, oopsie, too far forward there, here we go. That it's going to take about it says a minimum of 40 hours. The state that started this is requiring that people have a minimum of 40 hours of mentoring. So if it takes a little less than 40 hours, that's not a problem. But do know that it will probably take about that much time. So in some cases, it might take less than 12 weeks. Again, the 40 hours isn't required in California, but just again know that it could take that much time. Let's see. I'm just kind of trying to hit the highlights here. If you need to go beyond the 12 weeks, we probably need to talk. Would really like to keep you on the 12-week timeline, but I know that there's things that come up. So we'll kind of deal with that as we need to. We're going to, I will be your mentor, and I'm sorry, I probably didn't introduce myself at the beginning of this recording. I'm Janet Stevely, I'm with Griffin Hammis Associates, and I will be the mentor for all of you that are going through the PEC mentoring here. So I live in Oregon, I'm on the same time zone as you, which is kind of handy. And so I'm the person that you're going to be getting feedback from. I'm assuming that it will take about 8 hours per person in terms of reviewing the documents that you send in, going back and forth with emails and phone calls. And we're kind of breaking that out as, some of that is giving guidance around doing discovery. Some of it's really just reviewing DSRs. And the third part is really helping with the visual resume. So again, we'd like to see some good visual resumes come out of this. And we just looking here if there's anything else. So that's kind of the highlights. So make sure that you review that part with your supervisor. And if there's any questions, feel free to get a hold of me. The rest of the registration process is pretty straightforward. You're just adding in your contact information. And so once you finish the registration, you'll get a confirmation email that says something like, thank you for registering for the PEC Discovery Mentoring Program. And from here on out, here is a new link that you need to use to access the mentoring portal. So this link I'm sending you now is just for registration. And then after that, you'll use the other link to the email. And I'm going to go to the other site now. So the other link will take you to a page that looks like this. And again, the password for everything is change me until you change it to something else. So in my case, I'm going to go in and I'm going into the portal from a mentee's perspective here. So, oh dear. Here, let me try something. Okay. I'm actually going into a different, let's see, get out of that. It will ask you when you go in just, the job seeker one. So I'm going to say job seeker one, and it'll show you. And you'll see I'm actually looking at somebody else's mentoring program. Yours will say PEC Discovery Mentorship Program. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm going to get out of this one because theirs actually looks a little different. Let me go into one that looks, It's going to look a little more like yours. They have some things that are a little bit different on there. So, okay. So here's one that looks like yours. This is Missouri's, but yours will say PEC. And you'll see here that there are preliminary steps followed by the steps involved in discovery, stage 1 through 6 here. So I'm going to click on preliminary steps, which this is the piece that I want you to be focusing on between now and January 6th. Actually, these two steps, preliminary steps and scheduling for stage 1. You don't need to complete it until January, but think about getting it scheduled. So I'm going to show you both of these. In the preliminary steps, it asks you to do a few things: to read your assigned course materials, to review the discovery staging record, to identify and confirm the job seeker, and to submit a log of time. So during each one, if you click on it, there's some information to review. There's 3 things here in terms of materials to review. One is what's called the Customized Employment Plan Design Guide, which is basically just a nice overview of what you learned in ACRE. So it's something kind of short and sweet that can just kind of refresh your memory, especially if it's been a while since you went through ACRE. The second thing, the Developing Vocational Themes Workbook, is kind of a thinking tool. You probably won't even need to think about it till you get more into like stage 3 or 4. And the last thing, and this one I want to show you because I think it's helpful for just keeping you on track, is it's just kind of a checklist. If I were going through the mentoring and I was the mentee, I would probably print this out and post it somewhere in my office so I could kind of keep tracks on where I am. Again, week 1 is starting January. Well, I shouldn't say this. We're actually doing preliminary steps before we start with week 1. So try to get these done before January 6th. And then it's just a little checklist of what you need to do. And again, there's more information in here about these particular things. But for instance, in weeks 1 and 2, we're completing the initial home visit with the job seeker. You're completing the neighborhood visit. You're identifying at least 2 others to be interviewed that will happen in stage 2. But you're finding out who those people are during stage 1. And you're entering your notes on the discovery staging record for stage 1 and uploading that into the portal. So this is just kind of a nice little checklist to keep you going. So that's the reading assignment for preliminary steps. There is a blank copy of this discovery staging record right here that you can download, and that's again the document that you'll be sending back and forth and working on as we go. But if you'd like to just download it and review it ahead of time, that would be great. Identifying and confirming the job seeker. Again, we're looking for somebody who's being referred for customized employment. You may have a number of people to choose from, you may not. It just kind of depends on your situation. So we're hoping that you can identify somebody who's ready to start in January. I would say we've had some people through this, identified people who were really, really tricky in some ways. Like for instance, people whose parents weren't really on board about customized employment or employment in general, or people who were really fearful about benefits and couldn't get connected with benefits planners ahead of time. So I'm not asking you to cherry pick people, but really in terms of learning this process, I'm trying to find somebody who's kind of on board, who, you've got a pretty good team to work with, families, supportive of employment. You've got some people to brainstorm with. So that would just be my advice to you. It's not that, people who are hard need customized employment too. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be able to have access to it, but just in terms of, sticking with the 12-week timeline and, probably starting with the hardest person you've got, or the person with the most, barriers in terms of family support might be tricky. You'll also need to, before you get started, is to get any release form signed that your agency might have. We will be asking you to take pictures, and to be sending us copies of pictures as well as the discovery staging record, so that you need to have your release for you to allow you to share information with me. And the last thing is the time log, but I'm going to show you that when we move to stage 1. Okay. So that was preliminary steps. I'm going to go now to stage 1. And just so you know, you won't be able, the only things you'll be able to open initially are the preliminary steps in stage 1. Until stage 1 is approved, you can't go on to stage 2, because we do see this process as kind of sequential and cumulative. So we want you to complete each stage before going on to the next stage. So in stage 1, you're scheduling and completing the initial home visit with the job seeker. There's a little information here that just kind of, again, it's review from ACRE, but just prompts you about the kind of questions you might be asking or kinds of things you're looking for. It's going to remind you to use smooth listening and be very conversational. But again, it helps give you some probes, like if the conversation kind of dulls out, some prompts that you might use to try to get at the information you need. There's also some materials to read about the neighborhood visits, just reminding you of the kinds of things you're looking for and how you might map that out. Identifying at least 2 others to be interviewed. Remember, this is really for stage 2, but you're going to be looking for other people who you might talk to who are going to give you very positive information about that person. It might be, other family members, past teachers, clergy, neighbors, friends, anybody who might have good information about who that person is and what their strengths and skills and conditions of employment might need. During stage 1, there's a prompt in the discovery staging record to start looking at benefits and to request a benefits planning query. And you might recall from ACRE that that's just a little report from Social Security that summarizes people's benefits so that we can make sure we're giving them good information about what impact work is going to have on their benefits, but also so we can identify if they might have potential for a pass or for other work incentives. If this might be needed, and often it's not, but if somebody might need assistive technology, there's also a prompt here to start thinking about getting them for an assistive technology assessment. That might not be everybody, but often people with significant physical disabilities or sensory impairments, we may want to look at that. And then it'll just tell you, enter notes into your DSR. So you've done the home and neighborhood visits. You need to write it up. And what this gives you is an example. So if you're kind of trying to think about the level of detail, it's just an example you can refer to help as you go. Remember, as we're writing these up, we want to be positive and we want to be descriptive and not use a lot of judgment. So you don't want to just say, Sally liked the activity we did. You want to say, Sally participated in the activity. She was smiling the whole time. She was asking questions to her partner. You want to really spell out what you observed. Last thing here, and this is an important one, to upload your job seeker's your discovering staging record, and for this time it will just be stage 1. So you've written up stage 1, and here is where you upload it. So you just hit select file, go to wherever you've saved it at on your computer, and click it, and it will upload it into the system. And when you do that, it gives it a specific name. It'll say like your name, job seeker 1, stage 1, version 1, or something like that. And when I review it, I'll put my initials at the end of it and send it back to you. If it's something where I'm asking you to modify it a little bit and you need to upload again, it'll automatically change the name to version 2 or something like that. So it'll go back and forth. So make sure you continue to work on the same copy that I'm sending you back. We don't want multiple copies of the DSR going. So that's where you upload it there. And then the last thing that we do is to submit the time log. And this is really quite easy. There's some stuff you can read through here, but it's easier if I just show you. So let's say I went and did a home visit with Sally this week, my job seeker, and I'll just say this was the week of January 6, 20. And I'm just going to say here, home visit with Sally. And here, the next thing, activity type, you'll see a drop-down menu, and there's only two choices. You're either doing discovery, activities, interviews, or meetings, or you're documenting it. So in this case, I was doing it, and the location was at the job seeker's home. And I was there for, I'm just going to say for an hour and a half. But I also had 40 minutes of travel time. So I'm going to document that, and then I just say add to time log. And then I might say too that also on that day, 6/19, or excuse me, 20 here, I went back to my office and whoops. I might say something like document stage 1. In this case, this is documentation. I've done the activity, now I'm documenting it. I maybe went back to my office to do that, and I worked on it for 50 minutes. Add to time log. So you'll see, and this will give you a cumulatively look at what you've been doing. So this one's kind of odd because I've been adding to it as an example, but and I'll also show you your total time that you've spent on that stage and your total time that it's taken to get through discovery. So again, this is really good information for funding agencies to show them really what kind of time it's taking to get through this. Now, the one thing that you're not going to be documenting in the time log, well, there's no way to, is the time that you spend maybe reviewing the materials. So let's say, for instance, like back here when we're on preliminary steps, if you're reading through the course material, we're not documenting that because that's part of the education, the learning. That's part of the training. It's not part of actually doing discovery. And what we're trying to track through the time logs is how much time does it actually take to do discovery. So we're assuming this time you're going to have some time involved in prep for it and doing the mentoring. But after this, you wouldn't necessarily be doing that, right? You might need to review a little bit, but the more you do it, the more you're just ready to go. It'll just go a little faster as you go. So again, you won't be able to open these stages until you've been approved to go on. If you are a supervisor and are listening to this, your access is going to be a little bit different. And I can't give you access or what we call viewer rights until the mentees that you supervise have registered. But I will be getting that information to you. You go in through a portal that looks similar, but what you can see through there is you can see what your mentees have uploaded and the feedback that I'm giving them. So that's all for now. Thank you for listening. And again, what you need to be doing between now and January is reviewing these preliminary steps. And I would also review stage 1 here too, just to be ready, maybe even getting that home visit scheduled early in January. But primarily, getting the job seeker identified. I would maybe even do a kind of an intake meeting with them where you might describe the discovery process and what we've been going through and what's going to be happening, so that that whole team understands what that's going to be doing. So if you have any questions, please call me. My number is area code 541-944-9115. I'm going to send with this some information, my contact information, and just again, feel free to call me if you have any questions. Okay, thanks so much, and this wraps up our webinar.